Welcome to this explainer. Today, we're doing something wild. We're decoding a deeply complex and honestly fascinating framework. We're looking at a theory that treats ancient texts not just as history or metaphor, but as the literal, mathematical operating system of reality. It's a totally different way to read the source material, treating it like an architectural blueprint for existence itself.
But before we actually map out the architecture, I want you to ask yourself a question. Consider if the forces of nature, the act of creation, and the grand sweep of human history might actually run on a perfectly structured mathematical code. What if there's a computational substrate, an engine basically, powering exactly how reality splits, forms, and then loops back on itself?
Okay, so here's our roadmap for today. We'll be covering 1. Reality's operating system. 2. Two fields of governance. 3. Mapping the prophetic nodes. 4. The illusion of symmetry. And 5. The trap of perfect control. Let's dive in. Section 1. Reality's operating system, specifically the 2-3-7 framework.
The absolute core premise here is that existence, it isn't random. According to this framework, it's a highly mechanical process. It always starts with a division, the split, moves into a form-building phase where things stabilize, and eventually seeks recurrence, or a return to the source. It's just this continuous loop of processing.
Now, what's really interesting is how these three numbers aren't just symbols, they act as the specific mathematical operators driving all transformation in the universe. The 2 is your initial split. It creates duality and boundaries. The 3 acts as a stabilizing buffer. It's the interior of the system where manifestation actually happens. And the 7 is the sealing function, the final return path that ensures total conservation, meaning nothing is truly lost.
But here's the thing. This mathematical engine doesn't just run in a void. It runs across distinct, competing fields of governance. Think of these fields like separate bounded domains of reality, like light or sound, where these 2-3-7 operators execute their code to actually process existence. Moving right along to Section 2, two fields of governance, circulation versus return.
Let's directly contrast these fields because this is where the conflict happens. On the left, we have the Taghūt field, which operates purely between the 2 and the 3. This is closed recursion. It's an endless circulating loop with zero exit vector. On the right, we have Solomon's field, or the Sulaymān dominion, operating between the 2 and the 7. This field successfully connects that initial dual split all the way to a path of authorized return, anchoring the system to actual closure instead of just trapping it in circulation.
Look closely at that Taghūt loop. It's basically a cosmic trap. Duality, that initial split of the 2, enters manifestation in the 3, but it just stays there, endlessly circulating inside the created system. Because it never reaches the 7, it never returns to its origin. It's a loop of endless friction, no exit vector. You're just stuck in the machinery.
All right, Section 3, Mapping the prophetic nodes or the execution flow. To understand how this plays out, we map the code onto historical and prophetic hardware. It's an execution flow. Step 1 starts with the 2, the earth origin of Ibrāhīm and Ismāʿīl. This is the initial break from the inherited Taghūt structure isolating pure duality. Then, Step 2 moves to the 3, Yūsuf and Yaḥyā, operating inside the system interior. Yūsuf provides the horizontal integrity, while Yaḥyā provides vertical activation by taking the book. Step 3 goes back to a 2, Ishaq and Yaḥqūb. But listen, this is not the original 2, this is a recomputed, purified dual line. Finally, Step 4 reaches the 7, the boundary of Adam and Iblis. This is the ultimate edge where cosmic restoration or a complete fall is decided.
I really want to zoom in on Node 3 for a second. Node 3 is absolutely vital because it operates as a buffer. It stabilizes manifestation without dissolving identity. It literally prevents the system from collapsing under the intense weight of its own duality.
Section 4. The illusion of symmetry and the hidden asymmetry. Right when this operating system looks flawless, we hit a structural limitation buried in the code. Ask yourself, what actually happens to a buried node? What happens to the system when a piece of data isn't just processed, but is actually silenced, buried, and totally lost? Can a perfectly symmetrical mathematical equation account for irreversible data loss?
The ancient source text introduces this wild concept in verse 81:8, the buried state. وَإِذَا الْمَوْعُودَ to Sulaymān. It refers to a silenced, buried entity. In this framework,
This represents a point of truly irreversible compression. It's a node of absolute information loss that completely shatters the standard symmetry of the 237 engine.
And here is why this is so critical. You can't just model this buried node as a simple 2 like a standard mother-son pair. Why? Because a standard 2 preserves symmetry. It implies that things are reversible and recoverable. But 81.8 is a silenced state. If we force this into a neat, symmetrical 2, we create a false loop. We're falsely assuming we can recover what is permanently lost. This is an irreversible compression point sitting right inside the 3 stabilization node.
Which brings us to Section 5, the trap of perfect control, Solomon's flaw. Outwardly, Solomon's kingdom is this ultimate 2-to-7 authority structure. I mean, it has total dominion over the winds, the jinn, physical reality, the whole shebang. But inwardly, because that buried asymmetrical node from 81.8 remains completely unqueried, the system contains a massive hidden failure. It looks complete, but it closes falsely.
So the big takeaway here is this. You can build an operating system with absolute perfect control. You can completely master the loops of reality. But without querying that buried, silenced node, without addressing that irreversible loss, your system can never achieve true restoration. It's perfect control without full restoration. And this brilliantly illustrates the ultimate trap of power. Solomon's system looks flawless on the surface, but by treating a permanent, irreversible loss as just another standard relational pair, forcing it into a 2, the math just doesn't add up at the deepest level. It's an illusion of perfect control, hiding a fundamental flaw. This whole framework leaves us with a pretty profound realization. Look around at the perfect systems running our reality today. Our tech, our societies, our power structures. You have to ask yourself, what buried truths, what silenced nodes are being glossed over right now just to maintain the illusion of perfect symmetry? Because until those nodes are finally queried, true restoration is absolutely out of reach. Thanks so much for joining me on this explainer, and keep questioning the code.